maybe they had a job and now they're at home, or maybe they're staying home with
Yes.
kids, or maybe they're just hitting a point in their career where they're not sure what to do. Like everybody falls into some type of category like that, right?
Yes. And I think thank you for saying that, because the patterns of burnout, you don't have to fall nice and neat into one of the categories. When we're thinking about what burnout actually is, it is a chronic, long term exposure to stress. Now, our body is like, when we think about stress, our bodies respond to stress as if we're in danger.
Mm-hmm.
And that's appropriate when we were tigers and cave people. There's danger, you respond, the danger goes away, and you go back to your cave person den. But as human beings, we are not built to endure chronic, long-term, pervasive stress.
Yeah.
Because what happens biologically when you experience stress, your brain is flooded with stress hormones, which in dangerous situations are needed. It gives you a decision. Do I run? Do I fight? Do I freeze? Um, do I fight back? Um, and it needs to dissipate. It needs to dissolve through our systems. And when we are in this chronic, long term stress, the stress hormones are continuing to flood our system, and can cause so many symptoms, that really people just don't feel good.
Yeah. Yeah, and it takes time, right, for some of these
Mhm.
issues to arise physically that come from stress. I feel like people are like, "Oh, yeah, I'm stressed," but whatever, everybody's stressed. But there are
Mhm.
manifestations of that over time for sure.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's what's kind of sneaky about this idea of burnout is the symptoms are often ambiguous. They If you go to a doctor and say, "Oh, my back's been hurting, I've been having stomach aches, or I've been having headaches, I'm not sleeping well," the doctor's going to run a series of tests and likely come back and say, "Oh, we can't find anything," which is both good news and bad news. No one wants to get bad news from a doctor. But at the same time, if you get a diagnosis, then there's something you can do about it. So people often are experiencing so many of these physiological symptoms, and unfortunately, kind of the medical model then will say, well, you just have to deal with it, right? And I think a lot of medical professionals are well meaning. Get more sleep, eat right, exercise, like those are like
Yeah.
reasonable things. But to someone who is already maxed out, the idea of meal prepping, or the idea of making time to exercise, or even saying to someone who's having trouble sleeping, well, you've got to get better sleep. It's like, obviously, I need more sleep. Um, and so, what is happening to people in their bodies then is just being left as, well, I this is just a moment. You're probably stressed. You'll get through it. Where
Hmm.
I think a lot of these people who are experiencing these signs of burnout really need some help and support to shake things up so that they can feel better.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, I agree. Everything.
Yeah.
So let's.
I think I'm sorry. I was gonna just say I was thinking about, that, like, when my kids were young, and one of the times when I was feeling burnt out, um, something that was like coming up and I hear so often is this irrational irritability that people
Mm,
are feeling very on edge and nitpicky. And one of it's such a silly moment, but I think it was also a poignant moment. My son was asking me something about a yogurt, and I remember he was little, and something came over me, and I'm screaming in my kitchen about this yogurt or whatever it was. And I had this like out of body experience where I was like, who's this person standing in my kitchen yelling at this 3-year-old? What is going on? And seeing the look on his face and realizing like, oh my God, what have I done? And thankfully, like, I made a repair and knew that, like, I can't keep doing that. But that irritability, that on edge feeling, that feeling of almost like depersonalization, like not feeling like, who is this person, not knowing yourself, um, is so common in when people are experiencing symptoms of burnout.
So, yeah, that I want to talk to you about the symptoms. And before I send us down that path, I want to say I have a similar story. So, I would have probably agree that irritability must be a big one because I was a high school teacher for 12 years.
Oh,
And
wow.
and it's been years since then now. I can't remember how many years since then, but I loved the classroom.
Mhm.
I love teaching. I love talking to people and explaining things. There's a shock. Uh, and at the same time, in the last few years, I could tell I was hitting burnout. And I
Yeah.
used to joke and say, I don't want to be like the gray haired, angry teacher yelling at
Oh,
everyone. And I was
yes.
joking and not, if you know what I mean, because I could tell that with my family in particular, I was like on edge really quick and easy about things that
Mhm.
didn't need to be. It's exactly what you're saying. And it was telling me something was going on. So there's one, but what I wanted to ask you is tell us some of the signs. So what should we look for? This irritability clearly, yes. Are there others
Yeah.
as well?
Yes. Yes, there are. So, you know, irritability, feelings of disconnectedness, kind of being with people where you normally feel close or connected and just feeling space and distance, a little disconnected, perhaps even apathy, not wanting to spend time
Mm,
with people, not wanting to be around them as often. And I think that both of those things, like the disconnect and the apathy, um, kind of funnel into feeling lonely, feeling a little bit isolated. And so those things, when you're in a space where you have a family or you have this job or a partner or friends, and you're standing there and feeling like a stranger is so sad. I think a lot of
mhm,
people really experience this as such, like, there's an awareness of, this doesn't feel like me, and almost feeling like an imposter in your life. um I think other things that people can experience, this this tiredness, and it's not a tiredness of like,
mhm,
ooh, I need a nap, or like it's going to feel good to get in bed. It's heavy, it's hard to get out of bed, it's the tiredness that no amounts of cup of coffee or cold water on your face will wake you up, that you're kind of walking around with this heavy, heavy tiredness that each day you hope, okay, tomorrow it's going to be better, and it's not. And that's hard to get up and do your any role that you have in life when you're feeling this like heavy
yeah.
weighted tiredness. A lot of people I've talked to have brain fog. They'll say, I'm doing things and kind of forgetting things, and things that are like not dangerous, but like, oh my God, I left this oven on again, or I left my car running 4 times this week, seeming really spacey, forgetful. I can use myself as an example. When things have not been great for me, I lost a stroller. I left it somewhere and couldn't figure out where where I left it. I left my keys in my car. Would I'd leave my front door open with the keys in my front door.
Oh my gosh,
And
I
so
did that once.
these things, these things, and I have to laugh because my husband would come home and be like, did you not see the door open? I'm like, oh, I had no idea. And so people just feeling very out of sorts. Um, I think the other kind of things, and sort of all of these things happening where people are saying, that's not me, I don't know
Mhm,
what's happening. It then kind of funnels into some like doom and gloom feeling. oh, I guess this is like what my life is now. I guess this is, oh, like I have kids.
Mm,
This is what mom must be like. Oh, I'm in my 40s. I guess this is what it's like. And this picture of like it's not going to get better. I guess I just have to take it. But then also feelings of low self-esteem. What's wrong with me? Why am I feeling like this? Why I'm trying X, Y, and Z. I'm trying everything everyone is saying. And what's wrong with me that I feel this way? What's wrong with me that I yelled at my partner? What's wrong with me that I'm like forgetting all of these things? And to start that like game of like blaming and criticizing, it makes all of those other things worse.
yeah, for sure. Oh my goodness, what a spiral. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's a really helpful list. I think if you're listening to this and you're thinking, first of all, let me just make some people feel better, because as you were talking about brain fog, I was thinking, well, what about the occasional brain fog? That's not what you're talking about. Like occasionally we forget something. It's not a
Sure.
sign that you're in burnout
Everyone,
necessarily.
everyone is human. Everyone is human.
Yeah. Yeah. When you said left the car on 4 times, I kind of went, oh, okay. 4 times is a lot. Like, now I get it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's out of the
Pattern.
range of kind of, oh, everyone gets a freebie.
Yeah. Just making the listeners feel better. And
Yes.
now, at the same time, if you recognize yourself in some of these things, let's not let's not just sit there. Let's talk about what what can people do if we sort
What to
of
do. Yeah.
recognize this. Yeah, what do we do?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think that's the most, so both identifying, that I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are nodding their heads and saying, oh, that's me. Oh, oh, that's me too. Ooh, ooh, you saw me.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. So I do want to say the first thing, right, that even though we're talking about this idea of burnout and it's not an official mental health diagnosis, if you are feeling these things, it is still appropriate to seek help. That it is okay to seek help with a therapist and say to the therapist, I don't feel like myself. There are all these things that are happening to me, and I don't know what it is, but I need help getting back on track. That's a very reasonable and appropriate thing that a therapist can help with. And I think again, sort of that idea of, well, you can only go to a therapist if you're depressed or anxious or something really bad happened to you. And I would rather people come to me at this point of saying, I'm a little lost. I'm funky. I'm gunky, and I need to get back to myself. I'd rather them come at this point than if things continue to get worse.
Yeah.
Um, so the things that people can do, I think the first thing is admitting that you're burnt out. And for a lot of us, admitting that may feel like a weakness. It may feel, again, that story of something's wrong with me. Why can't I do this? But for myself and all of the people that I've worked with, when they've actually said those words and said it to someone who cares about them, they feel relief. It feels like this dirty secret that people are carrying around. And secrets are poison. They're toxic. And so to be able to look someone in the eye and say, I can't do this. This isn't working. I need help is empowering. You're then enlisting someone as an ally to help support you. And so that seems very simplistic, but admitting it and letting someone know is really so important.
Yeah.
Um, some of the other things that I think, again, like I don't think anything that I'm going to say is earth shattering, but it's important. And I want to be thoughtful about not saying get more sleep, get more exercise, right? We
Right.
we know these
We
things,
know
but
we
how?
should, but yeah.
How? How are you going to do those things when it feels like you don't have anything left? So one of the things that I think is huge is actually relaxing. So we often turn to our phones or TV or scrolling TikTok or YouTube. That's not relaxing. That is tricking our brain to a temporary state of lower distress. And listen, I love a good doom scroll, but that is not relaxing. So finding ways of what relaxation actually looks like and feels like for you. So there's so many different things that people find relaxing, but what your system should feel like is settled and calm and easy and being able to breathe deeply. For a lot of people who are burnt out, there's a little bit of hypervigilance. And so our eyes are open and looking and checking. And so relaxing your eyes, letting, that sort of, for some people, closing their eyes and kind of letting that relax. And there's a lot of different tools you could use, progressive muscle relaxation or meditation. But that idea of disconnecting from the screen, especially first thing in the morning and right before bed. That we're all creatures of habit. We all reach for our phone the first thing in the morning, and the last thing we're doing is looking at whatever we need to on our phone. But those two times of day, our brain is the most sensitive. And so even if you can delay getting on the screen 20 minutes, right? Until you're out of the shower, had your cup of coffee. That's a healthy way to like start your day, get your brain going. And the flip side, at night, actually letting your body decompress and relax, and not have the stimulus and emotional energy. And that nothing good comes of being on your phone right before bed. So I think that is a big piece. I think the other piece of it is stop treating yourself like a productivity machine.
Mm.
That you are not meant to be on and going and doing 24 hours a day. And so, in this element of feeling burnt out, it's you're doing too much. There's too much to do. And giving yourself, I love, and I say this a lot, give yourself permission, right? That it's okay if the dishes stay in the sink until the morning. It's okay if the laundry doesn't get folded that night. It's okay if you take the pile of mail and put it on the counter and wait till Friday to open it. That I think we as human beings are often very hard on ourselves, and this idea of I have to accomplish, I have to check off the to-do list. But I encourage people to think, if a friend came to you and said, I have so much to do, I'm so tired, I can't do it anymore, what would you say to your best friend?
Mm.
Because we are often so much kinder to our friends and our loved ones. And I don't think anyone is going to say, like, you need to figure out how to do it. You need to hustle and grind all day long and get the stuff done. I think that we would say to our best friends, it's okay. It's okay for you to come home after you drop the kids off and sit on the couch. It's okay to read a book. It's okay to take a nap. It is okay if the toy room is a mess. It is okay if the pile of mail needs to wait. And we'd be kind and we'd be gentle and we'd be loving. And so thinking of that, treat yourself how you would treat your best friend. Say the things that you would say to your best friend to yourself, and give a little permission and grace that you don't have to be productive at all times. And I think, I mean, I have like a lot more, but I think the two others that I feel like are important, one which I'm going to say three, because I
Go
feel
for
like
it, because already I'm like, whoa, wow, whoa. Okay, keep
like
going.
I'm like I'm like I want to tell everything, but I'm also like, slow down, simmer down. You don't need to go at it alone. That it isn't weakness, it isn't a flaw to say, I need help, I can't do this by myself. And so that may be going to your boss or manager and saying, I'm really having a hard time, I need some support right now, or to be able to delegate projects and say, I need my staff to help me, to ask our partners for help. And again, I like to use myself as an example because I've lived it.
Yeah.
When I was a stay at home parent, I thought I had to do it all. I created this story that I'm the stay at home parent, so my job is the kids and the house. Now, any parent knows that like staying on top of everything somehow it doesn't happen. You say, "Oh, I'm going to clean," and you can't clean. And I remember saying to my husband, crying because I thought I had failed, that I had like really like disappointed him and our family. I said, "I think we need a cleaning lady. I can't do it." And he looked at me, he said, "Finally, I've been waiting for you to say okay to this. I've been suggesting it the whole time." And to me, it was this like vulnerable moment of, I can't do it. But being able to say to him, I can't do this alone, and having him be an ally and a partner for me was so helpful. So turning to your friends, your family, seeking out a therapist, all really, really healthy things to do. Um, and this sounds counterproductive, but actually scheduling time for you, not just saying, oh, I need some me time, I need some quiet time, like putting it on the books, the calendar,
Yeah.
the family calendar, the post-it note spreadsheet, whatever system you use, but making that as a non-negotiable part of your week.
Yeah.
Because if you don't put it on there, it is really easy to put everyone else's needs first. And, sort of that age old metaphor of you've got to put your oxygen mask on first. And if you're not taking
Yes.
care of you and you're not putting on your oxygen mask, you cannot continue to show up in the world the way that you need to. So, scheduling your you time. And I think lastly, like this is a little silly, but also true. We all know about FOMO, the idea of like fear of missing out. But I think that there is the flip side of that, JOMO, the joy of missing out.
Ooh.
Feeling okay saying no, giving yourself permission to not go to that social event or not sign your kid up for the 700th activity or not taking on another project. That there is something really powerful and wonderful about being able to say no and listen to yourself and trust what your needs are. So I think that JOMO one also feels very, very important to be able to just slow down the pace a little bit and trust and listen that you don't have to say no forever, but you can say no for right now and take care of yourself. And when you're ready and it feels right, you can say yes.
Yeah.
How I often let people know, right, that like when you want to do something, when it's a yes, it feels good. Yeah, a yes should be a hell's yeah.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
and and a yes is like butterflies of excitement, energy, smiling, like wanting to go and do it. When your body says no, it feels sunken. It feels your palms are sweaty. You have a stomach ache. You start overthinking about all of the different parts of it. It feels icky and gross. Your body tells you. And so it's really important to listen to that and trust it to be able to know when it is okay to say no.